Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tapping In Part 2 out of 6, our webinar live stream. Look, this has been an amazing experience so far, so thank you very much for joining us once more. And look, we'll get right into it because we've got a lot of really good stuff to cover today. So, without further ado, 30-foot drop acknowledges traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises the continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to them and their cultures, to elders both past and present. We must always remember that under the tarmac, asphalt, concrete, oil stains, this land is, was and always will be traditional Aboriginal land. We would also like to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services funding this and many other initiatives. Without their support, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys would never actually see the light of day, and as a community we would be so much poorer for it. This workshop is part of the Realities and Advantages of Access and Inclusion grant awarded to 30-foot drop as part of the Information Linkages and Capacity Building grants of 2018 to 2019. Bit of housekeeping before we dive right in. First up, unfortunately, we don't actually have the resources to monitor all of our live streams during live sessions. So if you want to ask any questions or interact directly with us, please head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live to ask your questions. We'll be monitoring there and we can give you immediate feedback and answers on any questions you have. Okay. On top of that, they don't have to strictly be related to what we're discussing today. If you have any questions that are related to impairments, disabilities, or personal life as well, those that know me know that I'm very open about my personal life and the struggles of having a disability in Australia. So feel free to jump on and ask any questions that you have. We'll be covering a lot of information in a short period of time, so we recommend that attendees take any actions that you can to minimise distractions. Please make sure that 30-foot drop is tagged into any social media that you do about today. Okay, and on top of that, if you guys can leave a comment on the videos or a like or share them with people that you think could really benefit from what we're covering, that would be amazing, thank you. We'll also be recording this session, so if you want to review it, we'll be posting it on the 30-foot drop Vimeo library and our YouTube channel as well. We also reference a lot of research during our presentations and workshops. All of these sources are actually available in the 30-foot drop digital resource library. Okay, this is a free resource for anybody to use. Anything interesting around these subjects that I find are put into there. So if you want to do a deep dive in the information that we use, that's the best place to head to. At the end of the webinar, we have a short survey for attendees to complete. Please take the time to fill this out as it really helps us. You'll find it at our website, www.30footdrop.com.au/live, and if you scroll down the page, you'll find the buttons. And today is webinar number 2. So allow me to introduce myself as a presenter. Okay, I am Ben Aldridge. I am the Managing Director and founder of 30-foot drop. We are a business that believes in educating the community about impairments and disability through open, honest conversations. That's what we do, which is why I always encourage people to ask any questions you want. I'll answer them as honestly as I can, okay? Now, I am your wise monkey for today. I am see no evil. I am see no evil because I am a quadriplegic, okay? And as a quadriplegic, it is very obvious that I have an impairment of some sort. Okay, whether it be my hands or the fact that I have wheels attached to my butt, okay? What the purpose of today is that you should, by the end of today, see no evil about disability impairment. The other person that you'll see running the webinars is Lisa. She's not with me today, but she will be, as we go on during the week, doing more and more of the webinars. And she is hear no evil. She has an impairment, but it's a hidden one. And unless she tells you, you have absolutely no idea, which is why she is hear no evil. But wait, isn't there supposed to be 3 wise monkeys, not 2 wise monkeys? Well, that's because the aim of these webinars is to turn you into the third wise monkey. Speak no evil. Hopefully, with the information and the knowledge that we impart to you today, you'll be able to go away and speak no evil about disability impairment. You will understand that yes, we may have challenges, but at the end of the day, we are people. We have so much potential that is not being tapped into by businesses. So, what am I going to teach you today, and how are we going to achieve it? Well, there's a lot to learn about people with impairment and how to employ these amazing people. First up, we're going to have a look at an amazing resource called Disability Employment Service Providers, what they are and how you can access them. Okay? Then we will have a look at the services that they offer in depth. Then we will actually move on and go through 5 tips of how you can prepare your business to employ people with impairment. Then we'll finish off with an open forum where I'll answer any of your questions. Once again, they don't have to be related specifically to what we are covering today. Any questions? So how are we going to do this? How are we going to cover it all? The answer is fun, experience, and open, honest discussion. Okay? Now you will notice there is very little written content on my slides. Okay? That's here because that is so because you are here to interact with me, your presenter. And in order to facilitate that, once again, I encourage you to go to www.30footdrop.com.au/live to make use of the chat function there to interact with me live. Now, before we dive into disability employment services, I want to quickly cover some terminology. Okay, the reason I do this is to prevent any confusion and to make sure that we're all on the same page with some of the words that I use. So the first terminology that I would like to look at is the difference between a disability and an impairment. An impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss or difference of physiological or psychological function. To put that simply, an impairment is your medical diagnosis. My impairment is that I am a C5 quadriplegic with post-traumatic stress in remission. That is my impairment. Okay? Now, a disability, on the other hand, is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with others. This is often due to the social and environmental barriers that are in place. It is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable or disables you to being able to access or participate in something. Okay? So for example, stairs disable me. Okay? When a business doesn't actually provide a way for somebody with a mobility issue such as myself from being able to access their store, then they are disabling me. They are disabling me from being able to spend money. They're disabling themselves from being able to earn that money. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, whack a question in the text box. The next terminology I like to cover is the difference between access and inclusion. Now, unfortunately, access and inclusion is often thought of as one whole word, okay? But it's not. It's actually 2 completely different words, and it's almost like a 2-step process, okay? So access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, both physical and attitudinal, to the participation in activities and functions of a community. At its core, access focuses on the participation, a lot on the physical world around us, and is easily assessed with a checklist. Access is what most people focus on when they think about impairments, okay? It is very easy. There are checklists out there, there are standards out there. It is so much easier to become accessible than it is to become inclusive. And this is why. It's because inclusion is a psychological state of being, okay? And is the process whereby every person, irrespective of age, disability, gender, religion, sexual preference, or nationality, okay? Every person who wishes to can participate fully in all aspects of an activity or service in the same way as any other member of the community. Okay? Inclusion is psychological, access is physical. That is the difference between the two. And like I said, most businesses only look at the access. They don't look at the attitudinal barriers created by their staff, or the way that they treat people with impairment, or those of a different diversity. Okay? Inclusion is making sure that everybody can take part. Hopefully that's all made sense. Okay, as I said, if not, please hit me up in the Q&A on www.30footdrop.com.au/live. But for now, let's get on with the good stuff. Let's have a look at disability employment services. Okay? So what are they? What is a disability employment service? Okay? Disability employment services, or DES, okay, help people with a disability or impairment to find work and keep a job. Their aim is to help people like myself to find long-term, meaningful employment. Okay, that is their purpose. Providers of this service, okay, providers of disability employment services are called DES providers for short, and I will use that a lot because disability employment service providers is a real mouthful. Through DES providers, people with a disability, injury or health condition may be able to receive assistance to prepare for, find and keep a job. DES providers are a mix of large, medium and small, both for-profit and not-for-profit organisations that are experienced in providing support for people with a disability or impairment, as well as aiding employers to put in place practices that support the employee in the workplace. Okay, these people are amazing. They are highly skilled and highly educated in what they do. It is an amazing service, and I really encourage anybody that has a disability or impairment, if you're having trouble finding work, please look up your local DES providers and find them. Okay, and businesses, as you're about to find out, these are an amazing resource that can really help you cut down your onboarding costs. Okay, so now we know what they are. How are they funded? Okay, how much does it cost a business to access them? Well, the truth is, it costs a business nothing to access their services. Nothing. They are fully funded by the government. Okay? The providers themselves, they receive payments for helping participants to find and maintain work. Okay, which on itself can sound really worrying, because if they get paid to find work, doesn't that mean that they're just going to try and jam anybody into any position in order to make money? Well, no, because the funding is actually structured in such a way that providers earn more funding when they place more people into lasting employment. Okay? And lasting employment, you're talking 6 months plus. Okay? Somebody who is not suited for the role is not going to last 6 months. And on top of that, DES providers, they work a lot off their reputation. Okay? If you are just shoehorning the wrong candidates into the job every single time, then you're going to get a bad reputation and the organisation is going to die pretty fast. Okay? So overall, the way that the payment and the funding structure is done with the government, it acts as an incentive to make sure that they make the best possible matches every time. So that's what disability employment services are, or DES. Okay? Now, what services do they actually offer? How do they actually help a business find these amazing new employees? Let's have a look. So the services that they offer, okay, there are three main ones. They have job matching, they have role creation, and they have support. So let's have a look at the job matching first. So how do the DES providers actually go about making sure that they find the right match? How do they make sure that they find the right employee for your position? Okay? It's about understanding both parties. Okay? You have the candidate or job seeker, and you've got the business. So the DES provider is the link between these two. And they work very hard to make sure they understand the needs of both parties. So with the job seeker or the candidate, they'll work with them to make sure that they understand their career history, their aspirations, because that is massively important, to work together with them to understand their barriers, and once they understand their barriers, to work with them to expand their capabilities. Okay? I'm a perfect example of this. I went to a DES provider. Okay? When I broke my neck, I was in the infantry. Okay? My only qualifications before becoming a quadriplegic were that I could shoot, hide, I could lift heavy things, and that was pretty much it. They got me to explore my capabilities, and here I am. You know, they got me along a path that I never would have imagined that I'd go through. Okay, so they help them to explore their capabilities. And then they work with them to get the candidates job ready. And they do this through work experience, training and volunteering. Okay, they work really hard to make sure that the candidate is as job ready as possible. Because if they aren't, then there's a good chance they're not going to last their employment. And that's a bit of a loss leader for them. At the same time, they also work with the businesses that come to them. Okay? So they make sure they understand the business's needs. Okay? So what is it that your business needs? What is it? What exactly are you looking for? Okay? Are you looking for somebody who is going to be, for example, purely a cleaner? Or are you looking for somebody who's going to be holding a bit of a maintenance and cleaning role? You know, these things are very important. So they'll work very closely with the business to understand their needs. And they'll also have a look at the business dynamics. Okay? Because every business, every organisation is different. So they work very, very closely with both parties here. Okay? And they do that in order to find the right match. Now, the test of a great DES provider is the ones that you ring up and you work with them to understand your needs. And then they turn around to you and say, sorry, we actually don't have somebody who is suitable for that role right now. That is the mark of an amazing DES provider, because they know your business and they know their participants enough to say, we don't have a match, we're not going to actually force something on either's party. Something to keep in mind. So, where do the participants actually come from? Okay, this was a massive concern of mine as a business owner. Whereabouts are these participants actually coming from? Now, straight up, okay, disability employment service candidates are not forced into employment. Okay, it is a voluntary thing. Okay, they come to DES providers in a variety of ways. Okay, and these include and are not limited to word of mouth, self-referral following discussions with team members, friends, family members, self-referral from social media and other media platforms, health professionals, community agencies, schools, Centrelink, self-determining move from another provider, community talks, discussions, so many different ways that they actually go out there and market themselves to actually get these participants and candidates to come in and work with them to become job ready. That's where they all come from. So let's move on to the next service that they offer. And this one, I find this one really, really interesting personally. And I think it's well worth any business investigating when you're looking at employing somebody new. And that is role creation or job carving. Okay? Overall, role creation and job carving, it's all about improving a business's efficiency. Okay? And at its core, It's all about finding tasks and duties that can be done by people less qualified and therefore cheaper, allowing the more qualified to continue being at their maximum productivity. Let's have a look at an example, because personally I find this one a little bit of a harder concept to understand without the examples. So here we go. Okay, working in a mechanic's workshop. There are 4 mechanics employed at the workshop, and they spend the last 30 minutes every day cleaning up the workshop. Okay? Now, cleaning the workshop is a job that they are overqualified for. And whilst they're cleaning up the workshop, they're not working on the vehicles, which means that they're actually not making any profit for the business. So it's costing the business a total of 2 hours of wages at full mechanics rates to do a job that somebody much less qualified and cheaper can do. Okay? Employing someone to come in for 2 hours a day at a lower rate will allow the mechanics to continue generating a profit for that half an hour at the end of the day, okay, and will get the workshop cleaned, as well as costing less. That's an example of what role creation or job carving is. It's finding those things. So another example would be working in an office, okay, in an office environment where you have people who, you have executives who are very qualified at what they do, but they have to spend an amount of time each day shredding, photocopying, going to the printer, and tasks like that. If you have a big enough office, this becomes a very big loss leader, okay? That wasted time in between those. So having somebody who can go around and do that for everybody in the office means that these people are continuing to able to do their job and minimizing those interruptions. I really hope that made sense. As I said, if you have any questions as I'm going, please go to www.30footdrop.com.au/live, okay, and jump in the chat box there and send me a message, and I'll answer any questions that pop up during this session. But let's carry on. The final service that they offer is, there we go, support. Okay? As well as job matching and role creation, DES providers also offer a multitude of other free services. Okay? These are candidate support and application assistance. Okay? Within these, there are many, many things that you can actually access. And like I said, these are, once again, an amazing free resource. Okay? When you combine these things with what we were talking about yesterday, about why people with impairment make such great employees and the subsidies that are available, it's really a no-brainer. So, candidate support. DES providers support their candidates in their role. Okay? Once somebody is actually being placed, they will make sure over the period of time, whatever, and this is up for discussion between the participant, the business owner, and the DES provider to figure out how much support will this candidate need. Okay? It won't be a forever thing, or it might be. Okay? But once again, it's a free service. So they'll actually support the candidates in their role by regular on and off-site visits. And during these visits, they will ensure the candidate continues to understand the employer's expectations. Okay? They will assess for any requirements for assistive technology. Okay, so if somebody's role could be improved by the use of different assistive technologies, that's what they monitor for. They're there to keep an eye on it, to make sure that they're being as efficient as they can. They're making sure that the candidate is as efficient as possible for your business. They'll monitor for developing requirements to maintain performance, so they'll make sure that as time goes on, things don't change, because a person's role can slowly change over time, which is fine. That's what happens in business. It's an evolution. Okay? They just need to make sure that the developing requirements are actually maintained. and they'll deal with any questions, okay, or issues swiftly. Most DES providers, okay, and the people who do the post-placement support, which is the word that they often use for this, the people who run these post-placement supports are often available outside of office hours, okay? And often, as a business owner, you will get the direct mobile number of these people, and they are amazing. They will come out and assist to make sure that things go right, okay? These people are dedicated. They are passionate about this. An amazing resource. Application support. So, DES providers, they will often provide free assistance with the following applications, okay? Which once again, this saves you, the business owner, time. This saves you money. This saves you onboarding costs, okay? So the first one, or the first two, sorry, they help with are wage subsidies and the workplace modifications via job access. Both of these I discussed yesterday in tapping in part 1 out of 6. You can either, if you want to see it, you can either find it on our YouTube library, or you can book in for the next free live webinar session. So, how do you get started? How do you get in contact with these guys? Well, first of all, get in touch with your local DES provider, okay? Easiest way to do that is to just look up DES provider and then your town or region, okay? And it will come up with a list of them. And more often than not, you'll have multiple to choose from that you can work with. Often you'll find that you form a relationship very quickly with a DES provider, which is key, because the more they understand you and your business, the better job they can do. Okay? You need to provide them with the required information. Now, I really encourage people to be as honest as possible with this. Okay? The more that they know about your business and your needs, the more accurate they can be with what they're doing. Okay? Step 3, employ a matched candidate. When a candidate is matched to you, okay, give it a go. You may at times get the option to have them in as work experience or have them in on a trial basis. Okay, give them a go. I really think that they will surprise you. Okay, they won't give you a dud. Okay, then if you are eligible for subsidies, which 99 times out of 100 you will be if you're going through a DES provider, they will actually go around, they will gather the required evidence and fill out all of the paperwork for your subsidies. Okay? Basically, you're getting paid money back for onboarding a new employee with minimal effort. It's amazing. Okay? And step 5, enjoy your amazing employee. As we pointed out yesterday during the webinars, people with impairment, they make amazing employees in so many ways. Okay? Higher attendance rate, less sick days, more retention, better for your bottom line, so many ways. So now that we've gone through the DES providers and what services they offer, I want to actually have a look at 5 ways that you as a business owner can prepare your business to take that next step. Okay? You've gotten all the information from the last 2 days. Okay? Here are these are 5 simple, easy to implement steps to actually get your business ready to employ somebody with an impairment, to make that plunge, to do something amazing. Okay? So the 5 steps that I have are candidate selection, awareness training, accessibility, induction and mentoring, and post-placement. Okay? And these tips, they will really help your new employee to reach their full potential. So tip 1, candidate selection. As with all hiring, okay, it is important to get the right match. Working with a DES provider will really, really help you make that right match, okay? You need to remember that when it comes to candidate selection, often a person's disability or impairment may be irrelevant to the role that they're doing. Okay, one of my first jobs after I got back into the workforce post-accident was actually working as administration assistant and receptionist on a front desk. Okay, the fact that I couldn't stand up didn't matter. I was answering phones, I was greeting customers, I was filling out paperwork. It was irrelevant, and often the person's disability will continue to be irrelevant to the role that has been suggested. And using a DES provider for the candidate selection will also give you access to a far wider talent pool of people. Okay? So that's step one, or tip number one. Okay? Your candidate selection. Look at getting the right person. And really take a step back and think, is their disability relevant to this role? If it isn't, then why care? Why care about it, you know? Okay, tip two, disability awareness training. Look, many people and team members actually get apprehensive when dealing with a new team member who's living with a disability or impairment. Okay? Unfortunately, there is a lot of ignorance in society around the disability and impairment community. There really is. And they can get very worried about it. Disability awareness training actually really helps to ease this. Conducting targeted training can help address the questions and increase their confidence when it comes to actually interacting and being a team member. Okay? The disability awareness training also has the added benefit of promoting a positive attitude and teamwork. Okay, it's a value add. Running any form of training as a group in a team has positive bottom line effects. And on top of that, funding is actually available for awareness training through Job Access, which once again the DES provider can help you do. And this awareness training is something that we here at 30 Foot Drop offer and can actually put together. So that's tip two. Tip three, accessibility. Preparing the workplace so that it's accessible as possible will allow the employee to do their job and will help with a smooth onboarding process. Okay? As long as their needs are being met, their barriers are not going to be an issue, then hell, the studies show that when matched with a role that is within their abilities, people with an impairment are as productive as anybody else. The accessibility can help with that. Okay? The needs, of course, will vary depending on individuals because impairments are like people. We're all individual. We all have different needs. My advice is actually to talk to the person themselves. If you're going through a DES provider, work with a DES provider to figure out what it is that you need to change about the place. Okay? But in order to get the best results, making sure that the person with the disability or impairment themselves is centrally involved with it is best because they will know what will work for them and what won't. Funding is available for all workplace modifications. Okay, we covered this yesterday in webinar 1. Job Access has an amazing range of funding available for workplace modifications. Okay, DES providers will help you with those applications. Other considerations, okay, may include rosters and work practices, looking at modifying those to actually remove barriers. Example would be myself, okay? From the time that I start getting up to the time that I'm wheeling out the door, it takes me 2 hours, okay? Unfortunately as well, living where I live, the earliest that my care providers can come in is 6 o'clock in the morning. So the earliest I leave my house is 8, so really the earliest I can get anywhere for a morning meeting, etc. is 9 o'clock. So a work roster that's an 8:30 start, not really possible, but if you can jig it so that it's a 9 o'clock start and maybe I'll finish half an hour later, perfect. Okay, these small modifications of that in the work practices and the rosters work really well and can be a really easy way of making the employment much more inclusive of the person. Tip number 4, induction and mentoring. Okay, your new employee should receive an induction, okay, relevant workplace training and ongoing support through a designated buddy or mentor. Okay? At the end of the day, when you're new to a role, you need somebody to bounce things off of, and it's a good practice to have. Okay? Especially in the early stages of somebody's employment. Having somebody, a designated person they can go to and bounce things off, will also encourage that team bonding. Okay? Because there is nothing that will bond a team more than actually having somebody admit their shortcomings. And before the induction or workplace training goes ahead, think about any reasonable adjustments that can be made beforehand. Okay? To make sure that the induction and intake process is mutually rewarding as possible. Okay? So if the training is normally held in a place that is only accessible by stairs and you're having somebody like myself attending, probably look at moving that to somewhere else, and maybe even look at just moving it somewhere else permanently from then on. Because what happens if somebody is attending who has had an unfortunate incident outside of work hours and they're now on crutches and cannot get up the step? You know, things like that. They're reasonable sort of adjustments and changes to look at in your business and your practices. Okay, the final tip is the post-placement consultant. Okay, if your new employee is connected with a DES provider, they will have a consultant allocated to provide post-placement support completely free of charge. Okay. In addition to supporting the employment, the consultant is also intended to be a go-to person if you have any questions or concerns about your employee. Okay? Use the consultant as a free resource to you and your team to ensure that things run as smoothly as possible for the first few months of the role. Okay? Once again, they are very knowledgeable, they are very passionate about what they do. Okay? Make use of them. They want to make this placement as successful. They want it as much as you do. So that is all the information that I have today on how to employ people with impairment. What we're going to do now is I'm going to give people 5 minutes or so, if they have any questions, to actually put it into the chat or question box. Now, in order to do that, as I explained at the beginning, we don't have the resources to actually monitor all of our live streaming platforms at once. Okay, if you have any questions or queries about what we've covered today, please go to www.30footdrop.com.au/live. Okay, there you will find another live stream of this, as well as a chat and question box below. Okay, that is the one I'm monitoring. So please go ahead and ask any questions you have there. And I will be back at 11:45 to answer any questions that may be there. Thank you. All right, and we're back. So we have no questions that anybody had. Fair enough. I will say this because I've done an amazing job. So, look, to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for being part of what we're doing. Why isn't that? Let's see. There we are. So, remember, everything that we've covered today, the resources are available on our digital online library. Okay, please head there, www.30footdrop.com.au under solutions and resources. So go in there, there is all sorts of good stuff in there, from checklists to research that's been done to papers to, so much good stuff in there. And look, please, before you go, if you could head to our live page on 30footdrop.com.au and scroll down. At the bottom there is a post-workshop survey, okay? This is workshop number 2. So please fill in the survey there. We would be really appreciative to get any feedback that people have. But apart from that, I do believe that is everything. That is everything. Look after yourselves, look after each other, and catch you in the next one.